everybody to a new edition of Judgement Calls. And I'm very pleased today to be joined by Dr. Mitch Shulman, who wears many hats. He's an associate professor at the Department of Emergency Medicine at McGill University. He's also an attending physician at the emergency department of the MUHC, and he's CJAD's popular medical consultant. Also, he's a member of the Brotherhood of Zebras, referees hockey like I do. And I want to welcome you and thank you for your time from your busy schedule, Dr. Mitch.
Oh, no, it's an absolute pleasure. Like I said, maybe we should be wearing our zebra suits, our referee outfits.
Yeah, because we're going to be fast in commentary here. Yep. In your column last week's edition, you touched on it. You have sports starting up, team sports like soccer and baseball. The schedules are being posted. But as a physician, what are the biggest problems do you find facing them? I know they're going to make rule changes and adaptations, but until we have a vaccine, how hard is it for team sports?
Oh, it's going to be very tough. Let's start with the basics. So when we focus on the COVID-19 virus disease, or the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes the COVID-19 disease, we lose sight of all the other things. Remember, they have to stay well hydrated. All the usual things that you have to do, you still have to do. In fact, you have to be even more careful about them with our heat and our humidity. So the kids are going to be outdoors, whether it's baseball or soccer, or whatever the sport, make certain they're well hydrated, they're in the shade appropriately and protected. And we keep in mind the other things that can go on in terms of heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and all that. Now, in terms of actually managing them, that really forces you to think things through carefully. No more team water bottles. Each kid is going to have their own individual water bottle. And they're going to have to be sure they don't share. Distancing. The kids are going to have to be able to stay an appropriate distance apart on the bench. And then in terms of the actual athletic, depending upon what the sport is, certain sports are a lot easier. You start off at an advantage. So for example, soccer, in all honesty, is a lot easier to maintain some degree of social distancing, plus or minus. You're not going to have the physical contact that you will have in a sport like basketball or football, both of which I'm very concerned about. With respect to baseball, minor changes, it's creating that zone around the bases where they won't have to tag or anything like that, perhaps putting the umpire behind the pitcher rather than at a home plate. These are all reasonable, rational changes that we can make, and that you can still play the game and still actually get the whole flavor and enjoyment of the game. So as long as people keep the basics in mind at all times, along with the concerns about COVID-19, I think we'll be okay. Certain sports, though, I mean, you sent me the PDF from Football Quebec. It's how many pages long of rules and regulations that they're going to have to now follow? Very tough on the part of a coach, on the part of a trainer, on the part of a kid who's playing.
I mean, they're right now only at number 2, which is outdoor practices of probably about 7 steps, and some of them have A and B on it. And as you say, when it comes to contact sports like that too, another one I think of is rugby. I mean, when you get into that scrum, that's both teams, everybody hugging up to get the ball.
No. See, there's a sport, I cannot see how we can come back to rugby as it is now. They're going to have to dramatically modify the game if they're going to be able to play it. Remember, how does this virus spread? It spreads mainly through coughing and sneezing where the droplets go out. Well, if you're breathing very heavily, that could be singing, that could be screaming out, or that could just be really exerting yourself in a sport. There's going to be more spray. And that's why we think we've seen clusters of outbreaks in bars, clusters of outbreaks in choral groups, in churches, and other religious gatherings. It's people, one, being close together, yes, but it's the singing, the shouting, the loudness, being forced to project your voice forward. Meatpacking plants, one of the reasons why there were outbreaks in the meatpacking plants is, yes, they were close together. Yes, it may have been difficult for them to wash their hands and do everything, but because of the ambient noise in the meatpacking plant, they were screaming and shouting at each other to be heard. So if you're screaming and shouting, and I think of sports, right? Even if you cut away the parents and the fans in the stands screaming and yelling, even if you just look at the coach behind the bench or the kids or the ice, these are all things that we're going
Yep,
to have to
calling
keep
them
a
off
lid
for
on.
shift.
Yeah. And then the other thing I'm concerned about is how we're going to ref. Soccer, I can see easily reffing safely, with maintaining a distance and all of that. Basketball, probably too. Football, probably also a safe sport to referee. But I don't see how you're going to referee hockey without making major changes. How are you going to drop the puck and maintain a distance between you and the people? Most of us are wearing a half visor so we can bring our whistle up to our mouths. Maybe, as you were suggesting before, we go to electronic whistles so we can wear a full face protection. But still, you're in the scrum of the action. If you're up close to someone, and hockey is one of those sports where you know what happens. People get up and we'll say close, and we'll leave it at that.
And when you get into the scrums, I mean, the players, they do gathering, and we have to go in as linesmen or as referees when it's two-man system,
To pull them
that
apart.
contact. I could see too with the puck drop, we almost could go to the lacrosse system where, the ball is placed and the two centers go at it and eliminate that. As you say, it's going to be adaptation at all levels. And we love our sports, don't we?
It's really important, though. That's the key point. I think you hit the nail right on the head with that. We've got to get out. We've got to be active. If only because one activity boosts your immune system. If only because activity makes it easier to sleep, and sleep is really important to your health right now. If only because we know that exercise helps combat depression and anxiety. If only because we know that sport and exercise are really important for our general health, diabetes, high blood pressure, all these things. Now, bicycling and other activities, running, walking, jogging, these are all things that you can continue to do over this period of time. And there's no reason why the kids can't be conditioning. I think that's a great opportunity for the kids to start getting into shape for the season. So even if you're playing hockey and your season has been cut off on the summer and you couldn't go away to sleepaway camp, which is, I understand completely, but what a loss. I mean, sleepaway camp for a lot of these kids was so important and such a tremendous opportunity for them. If you couldn't go away to sleepaway camp, okay. You can't play sports over this summer. The sport camps are gone. All these things are not open perhaps as they would normally be. This is a perfect opportunity for you as a parent to get involved with your kid and work out with your kid, exercise with your kid, bike with your kid, condition with your kid. You'll both benefit. And I think one of the most important things, one of the biggest innovations I've seen in sports since when I played, is what great shape most of the kids are in for the start of the season in the fall. I think conditioning and being in strength and in good shape is great for the sport, great for the kid, and a phenomenal habit to create that you can then continue with for the rest of your life. The habits you create around sports now, the camaraderie, the joy of being involved in team sports is something that these kids and all of us will be able. Look, one of the things I miss the most, and I'm hoping that no one is listening, right? Just us talking here. One of the things I
We'll
miss
tell them, we'll put it on pause.
I miss hockey. I used to get together with the guys all throughout the spring and summer and in the winter, and we would play hockey. And I miss the locker room. I miss getting out on the ice with them. I miss the banter on the bench. I miss the banter after the games. These were important, if you want to call them mental health issues. Sure, I'm not ashamed, but these were really important to my psyche. And one of the things I must admit that I miss the most and that I'm feeling the most is that since February, I haven't been on the ice. And I really, really feel the lack of that. So look, the sooner we can get back to doing anything, I think it'll be awesome.
Exactly. And I appreciate you, Doctor, making a house call to Judgment Calls. It was a great pleasure to have you here. And I want to tell everybody out there, the judgment call on this one, listen to what Dr. Mitch says. Let's all be safe out there. Let's follow the rules and regulations, and we won't have to put you in the sin bin for picking up some germs.
It's really important. And people are getting tired. I understand the frustration. But if you look at the countries where we've been successful, hand washing, social distancing, and wearing a mask are the things that'll make the difference. It's tough over the summer. I get it. But if we can just keep it coming, we'll be okay. We may not even see a second wave. We may not get into all the sorts of trouble that you're seeing in the States. So I know it's tough, but keep at it.
Fingers crossed. Words from Dr. Mitch. That's it for this edition of Judgment Calls. And again, any comments, any suggestions, any questions, I can be found at sportsatthesuburban.com. And until the next time, stay safe, everybody. We'll see you out at the baseball field and at the soccer pitch because the season will be getting underway. Take care.